Welcome to Mondays with Maria Gould. Today is Monday, January the 5th, 2026 already, year of the fire horse. I thought we would start this year's podcast off with a special guest. Let me introduce you to my other half, my partner, my lover, my husband, Dale Hussey.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Dale. Thanks for showing up on my Mondays with Maria Gould.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the reason we I wanted you to come on and talk is really just to share your miracle story.
Yeah.
And kind of give us a little bit of what happened to you. What year was this?
I believe 1994. It was kind of the spring, coming almost this time of year, like coming out of the new year into spring. And I was driving a heavy truck, a logging truck, for a fella, and he was really nervous to put me into this line of work because I was younger, not inexperienced, but it was a really technical kind of a job. There was a lot of mountain passes and roads and really technical driving and big, heavy technical combinations of trucks and stuff. And it was very, very, very in-depth for a younger fella. And so he put me into this job very nervously. And to make matters interesting, my father was the loader operator working for this contractor. And so
the loader is what
and the
will
loader
take the logs and put it on a logging truck.
Yeah. And so there was this nervousness on both sides and me being a little inexperienced. So I'll get into the day of what happened. It was kind of a very early spring day, like first part of March, so we get weather patterns that kind of come in and it's cold, and then all of a sudden you'll get a couple of days where it's really warm. And that's exactly what had happened. We had a really cold day and it had snowed just tons, like feet of snow in a day. And then the next day it was kind of warm. So the road conditions were, as what you would call up here, miserable. And I was inexperienced but experienced at the same time. And my dad had loaded me. It was the last load of the day. So you're the last truck if you're the junior guy. Congratulations, you get the short straw. And he had put the wood onto my truck and said, okay, I'm out of here. And then I was leaving where I had gotten the load of wood, and to drive from where I had gotten loaded to the mill that I was hauling wasn't a really far distance. It was only about 100 kilometers. And so, needless to say, I was nervous and a little worried, and anyhow, everything kind of worked out. Leaving, I didn't have to do any really crazy driving, but there was some fellas that had left ahead of me, and they were using the radio. And basically what we do in the industry is if a truck is many kilometers ahead of you, they relay it to the guy behind them. He relays it to the guy behind him, and it's through the two-way radio communication. We call it the trucker telegraph, and it just kind of piggybacks to the last guy in line, which was me. And their information to me was the road is... I've never heard truckers talk about treacherous road conditions. Generally, it's like, oh, it's a bit icy, where people in a Honda Civic or a Ford four-wheel drive would be like, oh, it's treacherous. And then we get in and go like, it's nothing. But these guys were scared, and I was just like, oh, crud, that's not what I wanted to hear. Long story short, I did find out pretty quickly that I wasn't going to get to town in any record time because the roads were treacherous. Needless to say, first time in history. And so I'm driving along and I come to this hill that these fellas have been talking about. and they had said, be very careful going down this hill. It's like a skating rink. And I started over the hill, and I made kind of a critical decision to go slower because I thought slower would have been safer. That was the inexperience talking, and I should have been in a little bit higher of a gear so that the wheels wouldn't have locked up. So I was in going too slow down this hill, and the wheels locked up and basically put me down this hill like a kid at the top of at the top of a hill going down on a crazy carpet. Like, I rocketed down this hill. Like, I have never gone that fast.
So you had a full load of
I
logs.
had a full,
so how
yeah.
many tons is that? Or
It would have been in excess of 100,000 pounds.
100,000 pounds. And back then, they didn't have a safety thing in the trucks.
Anti-lock brakes? Yeah, no, this was pre-anti-lock brakes.
Pre-anti-lock brakes.
Yeah.
And also the headache rack.
The headache rack is...
But you have to explain what that is.
Okay, so the headache rack on a logging truck is what protects the cab. It's like a...
It's probably because of your experience. Those are in there now.
No, they've been on there before. It's a legal requirement in British Columbia where we are to have them. But the point of this is the headache rack is what protects the cab. If a log slides ahead, it doesn't go through the cab. Well, when I hit the snowbank was as tall as an 8-foot house wall. Like, the snowbanks were really tall. So I hit that snowbank, and I went 3/4 of the length of a loaded logging truck through the snowbank, like basically plowed through it. They said the snow was, there was not people that witnessed it, but after the accident, they said there was parts and pieces like hundreds of feet away. So anyhow, I plowed through this snowbank, and when I hit the snowbank, the load of logs slid ahead and hit the headache rack, bullboard, protective structure, whatever you want to call it, and it broke off the bolts that holds this protective structure to the frame. It broke all 4 of these big giant bolts, like they're 1.5 inch bolts. It broke them clean off. And so anyhow, this load of logs crushed me in the cab, and as I'm driving, I sort of had enough wherewithal. Like, if I was sitting straight up, it would have just literally cut me in half. So I kind of dove to the passenger side of the vehicle to kind of get out of its way, thinking that if I hid down on the floor, it would go over top of me. And it did technically probably save my life. I only had, when the logs slid ahead and hit the cab and pinned me in there, it pinched my arm, and it pushed on my hips, like the back of the seat. It hit the back of the seat so hard that it mashed both of my knees up against the dash. And when you're driving like an old clunker beater farm truck, there's always like toggle switches or something that's missing, that little plastic clip to make it all nice and fancy to control. Well, this was an old junky logging truck, and all of the little plastic tidbits to control the heater and the fan and all that or whatever were gone. So there's these little 4 knives sticking out of the dash. And so my right knee took 4 knives into the kneecap. And so I'm mashed into this cab, kind of tweaked sideways, and my arm is hanging over the steering wheel. And I've literally got a log the size of I don't know. Bigger than me. And it slid ahead, and it pinched my arm on the steering wheel, and it had broken both my bones in my forearm. And I was, when I hit, I was awake. I remember hitting the snowbank and going, ugh, and it knocked the wind out of me. And the point of all this is I was trapped in that snowbank, in that truck, for about 3.5 hours. Breathing.
Weren't there logs on your chest too?
Yeah, the logs they had hit the seat, and the seat kind of broke, but it kind of held together just enough, and it mashed me kind of ahead, but I had dove kind of sideways to get out of the way. So my hips
around the steering wheel, kind of to the right side.
Yeah, so my hips and my knees were mashed against the dash, and then my upper body was leaning more towards the right hand side, over towards the passenger seat. And so I was the truck never stalled or stopped running. It was still running. It was running at an idle, and they had broken the exhaust, and it had tipped the one exhaust into the cab. So I'm breathing exhaust a little bit because it's just idling. There's not a voluminous amount of exhaust, but enough to make it kind of stinky in there. It's a diesel truck, so it's gross. So I remember kind of waking up, coming to, and getting my bearings and going, oh, this sucks. But I was kind of checking a little bit, and I noticed that I wasn't bleeding a ton. If you're warm, when it's cold, there's either a bleed or, you've got nerve damage or something. And I could kind of tell. I'm like, okay, I can't see a lot of blood from where I was at. So I'm like, okay, good, one good thing. But I was having a really, really hard time breathing. Like, it was very laborious to breathe. I remember going, okay, I'm going to have to concentrate to breathe, because it was so much work. It was just like having an elephant sitting on your chest and going, okay, that's one breath. And I remember being very tired of breathing right away. Like, it hurt to breathe so much. And I was trying to calm down and not go into shock. And this went on for quite a while. Like, time seemed irrelevant. I was just like, it felt like I had been there days, and I had probably been there 2 minutes. And so things start to creep into your head a little bit. You're kind of like, this sucks. Oh man, what if I die? And you kind of get you start to think about things, and you start to get kind of really somber, and life kind of takes a really weird turn when you're in kind of something like that. So I started thinking, well, maybe if I just let go, sorry, get a little emotional here. I started thinking about giving up, and I just kind of wondered why, if I just, didn't try, would anything be any different? Like, I'm just a nobody. And then, your brain really starts to kind of play games with you, and you start to believe your own story. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll just try and let go. So your body is an amazing machine. It tries to do what the brain does. The body will follow the brain. So my brain says, okay, well, try and let go. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried holding my breath. I tried not breathing near as much. And for a little while, you're like, your brain is a crazy mechanism, because there's adrenaline and your brain working against each other almost. Like, your brain wants to let go, but your body is producing so much adrenaline to keep you alive. So you've got two systems working against each other almost. And I just ultimately decided, I was like, okay, Dale, damn it, commit, let go. You're really hurt. You're probably not going to survive this. Why even try? So I tried letting go, and it didn't work. So I'm kind of upset.
Did you have any concept of time? Like, how long you were in there?
I felt like I was in there for days. Like, it felt like a really long time.
Yeah.
I felt like I was fighting for every breath, and it felt like, not eternity. I mean, let's get real, but it's like, it felt
Timeless.
It felt really long. And then I started to kind of doubt. I was like, okay, well, this isn't working. Like, maybe I'm not gonna die here. Oh, okay, well, hey, let's try something else. So over the course of, from trying to let go to, like, if it's my time, I'm just gonna pass. And then during that little bit of time there, I was thinking, like, if I'm gone, Like, I won't see my family. I won't see my parents. I kind of started to go, they'll probably miss me if I'm not here. And then I thought, maybe later on in life, what if I'm, maybe I'll have a family one day or something. And I just thought, maybe I'll miss out on that. So during this span of time where I couldn't quite sense time or length of time, I started to hear this a very really real sense of peace started to kind of creep into my mind, where it was telling me everything's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Just breathe. And it was some of you probably have had grandparents or people in your life that are incredibly positive to you, that give you that sense of comfort. It was like a warm hug from somebody you just immensely love and cherish. And it felt like, wow, okay, this person really cares about me, or this person really means it, because you felt it. I felt it in every fiber of my being. Like they said, just breathe. And they meant it.
Did you recognize the voice, or did you feel or recognize the presence?
I felt that it was something higher and definitely divine in nature, because it was a guiding. It was just something that you instinctively go, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. And I felt this sense of peace and comfort instantly.
Did it feel like maybe an angel?
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure it was an angel.
Yeah,
Wow.
Because from then on, I just, when this voice or spirit or anything you choose to describe it spoke, I didn't question, I didn't doubt. It was just, okay. And all I heard was over and over and over, relax, just breathe, you're going to be okay. And then anytime I would start to believe that story of just let go, I had a really, really incredible sense of warmth in my body, because it was cold out and I was starting to shiver, and I could tell that I was shivering. But when I let this voice comfort me, it brought such a warmth and peace that I stopped shivering. And it was like, there's no blankets around me. I know that, but I was so incredibly warm and comforted. And not shortly, a while after, I started to kind of get into a rhythm of just breathe, stay calm, everything is going to be okay. And I got into a very real pattern of concentrating on my breathing, and the breathing never changed. The breathing was still miserable, hard to do. But when somebody's encouraging you, or somebody's behind you saying you can do it, you can do it. And so I kept breathing, albeit incredibly hard, and with a coaching behind me. And so things started to kind of change for the better, I guess. There wasn't that I'm gonna die aspect of it. It was more of a, we're gonna get through this no matter what. And so I started to kind of pull out of that doubtful energy, going into a more positive frame of mind. The minute that started to kind of build, I sensed there was people around me, and sound kind of changed. I could start to hear people milling around, and I was like, oh, there's people here. And I sensed
You probably didn't have enough breath to call out, though.
no, I wasn't able to call out, but there was some fellas that had left behind me and then had passed me, and they had to come back to where they were working, where we were all working, to pick something up. And they saw that this crash, and then they started to go, holy crap, we got to see if the driver's in here, because they were like, the truck is still running. there's crap everywhere all over the road. Like, this is recent, and they started to kind of look around. And then when they saw me, I heard them talking, saying, there's a guy in here. They started using words I won't repeat. They were like, we got to get this guy out of here, blankety blank. And so they were very expedient in trying to get me out. Because we're in the logging industry, they had chainsaws and they had tools and they had all kinds of stuff. So they were basically cutting firewood off of the top of the truck to get the wood moved off of the truck. And I don't know if you've ever heard the sound of a chainsaw cutting through a fiberglass cab of a truck. I don't ever want to hear that sound again, but it sounded like freedom, because I knew there was people coming to help me. And it's interesting, and I hear, still to this day, I hear a lot of people talk about, I've got a chest cold, or I've got this. If you ever have a logging truck load of firewood sitting on your chest, when they take that weight off and you can take that first breath again, literally the best feeling of my life, because
you were born again.
I literally was born again. Like, I looked up and I took this full breath without labor, and I saw, and it was the most beautiful blue, clear sky, and the sun was shining, and most people don't remember the day they were born, but that felt like being born, because I could just breathe and without effort, and it was probably one of the most profound experiences of my life, and I'll remember it I'll remember it forever. Like, I can remember it still to this day so vividly, how good it felt to breathe. So when I hear people talk about, it's like, oh, I've got a cold, or oh, I can't breathe, and I'm like, shut up, just shut up. Like, you have no idea how hard it was. From that experience, though, like, I remember getting transported by the ambulance attendants, and the people that got me out of the truck, fairly rattled. A lot of them they had the 1,000-yard stare. They just were like blank, and they couldn't believe I was alive. Some of the expressions were very alarming to me, because it was like they just were absolutely beside themselves, going, holy crap, I can't believe this person is alive. The doctor that admitted me to the hospital, still to this day, calls me a walking miracle. It's crazy. You don't feel like a miracle just by being around, but when people are kind of see the results of some of that stuff, it's kind of crazy. But anyhow, the doctor that admitted me to the hospital calls me Gumby to this day.
Yeah, because your left forearm that the log was sitting on against the steering wheel.
It broke the arm, but not typically like how you would think. It broke my arm. They call it a green stick fracture. So it broke my arm in many places. So if you break something in a bunch of different places, you can flex it. So when they tried to fix my arm, they said, no, we're not going to worry about it. So I have a permanently kind of semi-curved arm.
Yeah. You are a walking miracle.
I guess. I don't know.
Then, so that profound miracle of you still being alive, and that angelic voice encouraging you to breathe and be here. It wasn't your time. You couldn't let go because it wasn't your time.
I guess not.
So how did that experience change your world? What shifted inside of you from that experience? What were you like before, and what were you like after?
I kind of was I don't know if I'd call myself a worrywart, but I kind of was. I worried about a lot of stupid stuff. Just like, oh, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be late, oh, whatever, oh, man, oh. I was a little bit high strung, and after that experience, a lot changed. I tended to not really kind of worry about the small things as much. Well, a lot, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I don't have I have a very easygoing nature now. Before I was kind of
Hot-headed.
not hot-headed, but like warm to the touch. I was always a bit of a go, go, go. We got to go, hurry, hurry, hurry. And now I'm just kind of like, we'll get there when we get there. I have a very, I have a lot stronger empathic nature towards people. I tend to be very, I let people kind of not push me around, but I tend to believe the good in people more than giving up. So it felt like, if they were gonna give me another chance, I tend to give people another chance. I'm if I see somebody struggling in the grocery store or somebody walking or whatever, I'm like, do you need a ride? Or I tend to be a lot more helpful than I used to be. Before I wasn't very helpful. Long story short, I tend to be I try to be a lot kinder towards people than I used to be. Mm-hmm. So I choose to see the good rather than the bad.
Do you believe in God?
I do, always have, but
that kind of cemented it.
That kind of cemented it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a defining. People have defining moments in their life, and that definitely was, because it was profound in so many ways that when people talk about, why didn't you hear the big booming voice from the sky? When you hear that voice, you don't just go, oh, shut up. It's like you
listen.
You listen because
you're obedient.
Somebody, grown-ups are talking, pay attention. And yeah, I heard the grown-ups talking. It was very profound in my mind, but not stern, not any kind of demand, but it was comforting beyond words. Like you just instantly were like, okay. Yeah. Not to put too fine a point on it, but very, very comforting to, like, in a trauma situation, you always want to believe that something will come and help you or save you, and it was, it definitely was.
Well, thank you for sharing your miracle story. I think you are a miracle. I think you needed to be here to be my partner, my life partner, our son's dad. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
And wishing everybody a wonderful 2026. And we will talk to you next week.